It's great to have you back with us. This is the Saints and Savages podcast, and as always, we're bringing receipts. My name is Brian, and with me in studio today is Mike Lord Norris. But first, if you like the show, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe. Share the show with a friend. Share the show with a couple friends if you're in that kind of thing. I know we are. Ladies and gentlemen, Saints and Savages, without further ado, welcome to the show. Mike.
Hey, man, what's going on?
And we skipped a week, man.
I know. To all our viewers out there, all 10 of you.
Hey,
because of
you. Amazing.
Hey, because of the YouTube algorithm. But anyways, we just had some personal family issues that we had to take care of, and we're back.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. And as always, crazy week, news galore. I mean, just financial markets crashing into the sea and like into the Mariana Trench, and then like coming out the other side of the world. Yeah, because it's that bad.
I know that they're doing this like whole January 6th video now.
Garbage.
Nobody like. I think they got like 19 million views the first episode, but I think it was because they did it on prime time. They did it across every single network, so like basically force fed it into everybody's face. And I still don't believe that 19 million because it's like nobody watches cable anymore.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
But anyway, there's plenty of good stuff on TV.
Well, what's funny about that is that they came out and said that they're not planning on bringing any criminal charges on any of those things. So it's like, so what's the freaking point, dude?
Yeah, and they came up with nothing new.
Nothing.
No new whatsoever. I mean, you even had Rachel Maddow. If Rachel Maddow comes out and says you have nothing, you've lost it. She pushed this whole Russian collusion narrative for 4 years. And that fell through. So when Rachel Maddow is telling you have nothing, when she was actually sitting there saying that, she was all like, she's like, none of these people that were at his event were these people that were rushing into that. This is two different things. Mm-hmm. She's like, but you guys are pushing this narrative. So that's crazy. And then the other one was, what's her name? Megyn Kelly.
Oh, gosh.
Megyn Kelly had a really good video, and of course she just destroys this stuff. And so she was like, yeah, I was listening to it, and she was all like, and there's like this, they put this track over on it, and it was like, that you hear the people, F that is and screaming and yelling, doing all the, and she's all like, I've heard that before, and they kept playing it over and over and over and over. And she's like, but they'd put it over a new scene, and she's all like, this is the cheapest production I've ever seen. She's like, you're just doing track over. And then they had like part of this interview that he did, and where he was talking about, I guess like going out and protesting, and he's all like, she's all like, but one, they cut off the end where he says go out and protest peacefully, and then two, she goes, that wasn't at the event where he was talking. This was during an interview, 6 months earlier.
Yeah. Selective hearing, right?
Yeah. So she's like, if this whole entire January 6th video, whatever, she's like, was put into court, she's like, it would get laughed out of court.
Yeah. I mean, it just like, it behooves me to even like talk about it, because it's just like, it's so unworthy of news whatsoever. Like, we know nothing's going to come of it. Yeah. Absolutely nothing. All they've done is waste like taxpayer money, resources, and people's time, and nothing's going to come of it, because come the midterms, that committee's goodbye, kaput.
Well, the whole reason why they're doing it is because they're just getting shellacked in every aspect from from the economy to
monkeypox to
you name it. I mean, they're just getting beat left and right, and so they just have to hold on to this narrative. But they bought into it hook, line, and sinker. It's like when somebody tells a lie, in court, and they just have to stick to it, because if at any point in time they just go away from the lie, they know they're toast. So they just have to keep going at it. It's like, hey, good luck.
Even if it sounds crazier and crazier, they just have to keep going for it, man. And it's painful to watch, man.
Yeah, but people don't care about that. People are at the gas pumps looking at how much they're paying. That's like I left the state. I came back. I was only gone for 4 days, and gas prices went up like 20 cents or 30 cents or something like that.
Yeah, I remember it was maybe a week ago, gas prices were $4.99, and then suddenly, like 2 days after that, like I was driving by the same gas station that I always drive by, and I'm like, what the heck, $5.25? Like, how did it jump that much in 2 days? Mm-hmm. And then $5.33, and now like apparently like in some places, like not even in California, like some place on the East Coast now, you can see like sometimes like 6, 7. I heard about one gas station had like $9 a gallon in like Fairfax area, which is ridiculous. I mean, how are regular people able to afford gas nowadays, especially if they have a long commute?
Yeah. Well, I'm one of those.
Yeah, that's why I'm like looking at you. I'm like,
but I have a pretty decent car.
Yeah.
And I take care of it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, still, it's like, I mean,
my gas for me, my cost doubled. I've seen it double from what it was before.
You got an SUV though.
No, I have my.
No, I'm saying not the Ford.
Yeah, my new one. Yeah. It's an SUV. But still, I was filling up the other one, and the price doubled from what it usually cost me to fill the gas.
Yeah, and all that's just transferring to the price of food. I mean, it's like I'm going to the grocery store and I'm buying like just a little bit for the week, and it's almost like a full cart of food that I bought 2 years ago that cost me $400. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
I was like, this is just for me.
I mean, also, have you been taking a look at utilities, like cost of utilities, like up? I think 30%.
Yeah, I think like I have a 3-bedroom apartment, and my electricity bill has gone from, or my utilities just in general have gone from it was hovering a little over 100, and now I'm pushing into the 130s.
It's like you're going by and like unscoring all light bulbs and just like lighting candles now. Like
and it's not like, it's like, you know, you go into summer, you tend to see utility bills go up a little bit, but I mean, this is like,
we're not even in August.
No, but this is like a jump that you would see living in Arizona, right? So when you go from like, you know, 70-degree winter and then you go into 130-degree summer, it's like, yeah, you got to crank up the AC, you know, but it's like, that's there, not here, you know, so, but it's insane. But there's a lot of insanity going on, and one of the insane things that we want to talk about today is this video about Roland Fryer.
You want to give a little backstory on him just really quick?
Yeah, so Roland Fryer was the youngest tenured professor at Harvard history. He happens to be black. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he, you know, we're going to watch a little video. We're going to do some reaction. We're going to change this up a little bit. And I actually didn't know about Roland Fryer, and I tend to know about pretty much anybody that's pretty important when it comes to economics, when it comes to social issues. Obviously, I talk about Thomas Sowell a lot, and Roland Fryer seems to be like that, and he seems to be like this generation's Thomas Sowell in a sense.
Okay.
And so, you know, the video will get into more about his backstory and whatnot, but you know, Harvard did some pretty shady stuff to this guy because he just started talking about the truth. So we're gonna start watching this video, and I know you haven't seen it, right?
No, I've seen a little bit of it, but not the entirety of it. Okay. So, cool. Well, yeah. Without further ado, let's jump into it, and we'll give you guys our reaction to what this is. And you can find this on YouTube. It's titled "Harvard Cancels Its Best Black Professor. Why?" Go.
Welcome to Harvard, the platinum brand, the high temple of learning. A most unlikely man once made it through these gates. A man abandoned by his mom at birth, who watched his family disappear into the drug trade, and his best friends go to prison for armed robbery. This unwanted son escaped and through pure intellectual virtuosity pulled himself to here.
You know what it sounds like?
That man is...
Sounds like Dr. Ben Carson a little bit of his his background.
Yeah, I mean that's a terrible background.
No, it is.
I mean that is like as adverse as you can get coming out of nowhere and like just making it your own way all the way up to like the most prestigious quote in educational institution in the country. So cool, man. Let's keep going.
Is Roland Fryer. And once he got here, he did exactly what this place claims to do: inquire along the frontier of intellectual discovery. Roland asked maximally provocative questions about racism, schools, policing, and he made some discoveries. These discoveries were treasonous, exploding the political pieties that saturate this place, and Harvard destroyed him for it.
Of course.
Why not?
I love this guy. What's happening to him is a freaking travesty. This is... so I'm very passionate about it.
This is the most cold-blooded murder I've ever seen.
Do you want to know what happened behind these cathedral walls? Do you want to know what happened to Roland Fryer?
Roland introduced himself to me by coming up to me at this conference after I had made a presentation and saying, I want to work with you. To which my response was, well, man, a lot of people want to work with me. Who are you?
So Glenn, okay. Glenn Lowry. Glenn Lowry, actually, I think he worked at Harvard as well.
Okay.
And and I think he was tenured. I could be wrong. I think he was tenured at Harvard too, but he couldn't deal with it. And he's
with the oppression stuff.
Yeah, and he was like, I'm out of this. And Glenn Lowry, he is he's a conservative. He comes on like Megyn Kelly's show, come on a lot of podcasts and stuff like that too. He's a big Clarence Thomas guy. And he actually, I think Clarence Thomas, they had, it's this event that they did that Thomas Sowell started. And so Clarence Thomas was there and Glenn Lowry was, I guess, like the
moderator.
Moderator, yeah.
Oh, cool.
And
he's a world-renowned economist or something like that?
Yep, great guy. Cool. You should look him up.
We became friends. I mean, he was almost like an adopted son. One of his early papers that I thought was really extraordinary was this paper on economics of acting white.
Hold on. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
Acting white? So like in the black community. So
I guess to trying to take entitlement or something like that.
Like from, the way you speak to the way you act. So if you enunciate your words, your vocabulary. If you speak like
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the family.
Yep, or President Barack Obama.
Oh,
right.
Obama.
That's quote unquote acting white.
Okay.
And so inner city black communities, they'll not everybody, but you'll have a lot of them. They'll make fun of that, and that's why they tend to call that the crab basket, right? Because you don't have to put a lid on it, and you keep each other in. You don't have to worry about anybody escaping because you just demean somebody just because of the way they look, act, dress, whatever. And it's
is this pretty common then in the black community?
Yeah, it's common.
Wow.
It's
cultural oppression, cultural suppression of.
Yeah, so there's
well learned and thought out people.
I forget the name of the guy on Fox Business. He does a lot of finance stuff. Bigger black dude. I can't remember his name, but. Conservative as well, but he talked about it. He's like, yeah, I used to get that crap all the time, man. He's like, because I carried a briefcase and I dressed in a suit because I wanted to be a businessman, and he did. He became a very successful, wealthy businessman.
Wow.
But everybody was always like, oh, you're just acting white, and you'll get this in families too. So it's
anyway. Like within families themselves.
Yep.
Dang. And for a little background, I mean, you grew up.
I grew up in everywhere. So when I was in Arizona, I was in the barrios, so I was around a lot of Latinos. Mm-hmm. And then I went to a black college. I went to Clark Atlanta University, historical black college. Mm-hmm. And I was in Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So I was and that's the first black fraternity.
Affirmative action, baby.
Yeah, that was my line name. My adopted mother, I love her to death, and she came into my life. She was my best friend's mom, she's black, so it's like you
grew up in the culture, like you were an adopted.
I am a true multiculturalist.
All right, let's keep going.
Social theory that many black kids consider doing well in school to be a white thing, and that kids who excel in school will get labeled race traitors and lose friends.
There's a party line on the acting white slander, they call it, which is that it's complete bullshit.
Mounds of existing research seemed to debunk acting white by simply asking top students how popular they were and finding no social penalty for doing well in school.
Asking a 13-year-old boy how popular he is, it's like asking him how much sex he's having. I mean, you're going to get an answer. It's probably not going to be the right
Roland Fryer talking.
Yeah.
Roland comes up with a different way to measure popularity.
The students are asked, who are your 3 best friends? And so you can count how many times somebody gets named as somebody else's 3 best friends. He has this beautiful algorithm for constructing a popularity index, which he then correlates with the student's grades. And he finds that the curve of popularity rises up until about a B. And then it starts to tail off.
Roland finds that black kids do lose friends as they excel in school, that there's a cultural ceiling capping classroom performance.
A lot of times we don't talk honestly and openly about the things that are hindering blacks in America. And that's what I'm all about, frankly.
So hold on, pause that real quick.
These things.
One of the things I noticed too when I was in college, you would see this as well. You know, freshman, sophomore year, kind of junior year, you would see this. You still had this high school mentality. You had the cliques. You still had the, you know, you're not cool because, you know, you're not wearing the right clothes, whatever it may be. And then all this, like somewhere that you see this switch right around mid junior year, sometimes maybe a little bit earlier, maybe beginning of junior year. You just see this switch. I mean, this light switch comes on. That's just like, why are you in college, right? You're here to be successful. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a professor that puts you into the right mode or you're failing, whatever it may be. It's like something happens, and then all of a sudden you realize it's like, I'm here for something greater than popularity. I'm here for something better than, you know, the way I dress. I don't care about what people are saying about me. And you actually see people start to lose friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know, you start casting off friends because it's like these people are holding you back, right? And these are obviously the people that, for the most part, they end up failing out of college. But yeah, you see that. So like when I went to college, I was 24. You know, I was fresh out of the military, so I didn't give an F from when I first time I went. You know, I had the mentality I'm going to be successful from day one. You know, and I was. And you know, it's like I would have all my homework done before you know, like as soon as the professor gave it to me, boom, I was done with it. You know, but I remember like I would have friends come up to me. And it's like I had this one. He was a cool cat, man. He came up to me and he was just like, "Hey, man, I got this paper that's due." And I was really good at writing papers. And he's like, "Can you help me with this paper?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely, man." I go, you know, what's it about? This and that, blah blah blah. And so we're kind of going over it. I go, "So when's this due?" He's like, "Oh, it's due tomorrow." And I'm like, "Dude, you got to be kidding me." I was like, "What have you been doing?" He's like, "Man, you know, you got to be out on the promenade. You got to be out, you know, doing, you know, showing your face. You got to be out there putting in the work." And I'm like, "Dude, you're paying $25,000 a year to go to college. What are you doing?"
Yeah, man.
You know?
Well, I think the reason is because college is a social construct nowadays, not really for educational purposes. I mean, really, there I would say a select few career choices that really, you know, require college level education, like engineering. You know, if you're going into like the sciences, things like that, doctor, maybe lawyer, you know, things like that. But besides that, man, most people just go to college just, you know, to find yourself, or they want to go
party it up. You go for that first year or whatever it may be. You want to see the parties and this and that, and you realize real quick whether or not you got the gumption to stay. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It's like usually it's around that junior year this light switch just clicks on, and all of a sudden you realize it's like this is a little bit more important.
It's probably because they're like, "Damn, I'm not gonna graduate. Yeah. I better graduate, or else I'm gonna lose all my parents' money."
I'm not putting names out there. Guys that I really like, frat brothers of mine in tears because they were close to failing.
Yeah.
And it was just like, look, man, I got to put crap on pause.
Yeah.
As you should.
Yeah. Cool. Let's keep going.
Things can be studied scientifically, and we have to do so to make progress.
Roland is originally from Daytona Beach, Florida. Right after he's born, his mother flees the state. He won't meet her until he's 20. He's raised by his dad, a gambling-addicted alcoholic. Roland learns to drive stick shift, picking him up from jail. In high school, Roland falls into small-time crime, stealing clothes from department stores and selling off the loot from his bedroom. A .357 Magnum sitting on his lap. He's recruited to college on an athletic scholarship.
Wow. Straight gangster.
And happens to drop in on an economics class. He's instantly mesmerized by the data sets and clean equations. Eventually, he studies under Steve Levitt, the Freakonomics phenom. He learns the craft how to deploy these tools to crack open the world and reveal hidden truths. And the truth that matters most to Roland.
Have you ever heard they've done studies on gang members, like the leaders, top guys?
Like good at business and stuff?
A lot of them are borderline geniuses.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, obviously they understand business. They understand how transactions works. They understand supply and demand. They get these things at a higher level. but they also know how to control people, and that's what they're really good at. Which is
socioeconomic.
Yeah, but what that comes down to business as well, right? Being able to direct people the way you want them to do things.
To get a good deal, to negotiate.
Yeah,
to do all that stuff.
I think they tested the IQ of the guy at the time. He was like the head of the Bloods out in California, and he had like a 38 or 40 IQ. I mean, he was a genius,
just running the Bloods.
and it was like, but for him, it was a business, but it was also, he grew up in that, so that's what he knew. And Roland Fryer, same thing. He grew up in this stuff, but. That's why he had a little side hustle. He was a straight up gangster, but
Dillard's.
Yeah. Then that's why when he went into economics class, everything clicked for him. He understood it, because he was already doing it.
He's already working on that. Yep.
All right. Is how to fix schools for all the other young Rolands in the world.
It wasn't until I got involved in education I heard about the cardiac test. You'd walk around the school and they would say, we have a new program, after school program. And I'll say, oh, that's great. Does it work? And they would say, yeah. And I said, well, how do you know it works? You could feel it in your heart.
You could feel it?
Maybe.
Cue the crickets.
Roland's work brings him here, to the Harlem Children's Zone. It's a revolution, taking in poor black kids and within 3 years getting them to catch up to and even exceed their white peers at richer schools.
We really got to think about this gap here because there's like a white-black gap going on. I'm not sure why you guys can't actually achieve.
You remember Thomas Sowell talked about this before, right? In basic economics and then in ethnic America, he talked about how blacks were succeeding far beyond white students in white schools. That's a lot of the reason why they did integration, because the white schools were failing.
Yeah. No, I mean, also during that time, what was it? The average household income for black families was actually averaging higher than whites.
And the marriage
rates. Yep. And so you can call it conspiracy or whatever you want, but I mean that was the start of the welfare state.
Oh, 1960s.
Yeah. And that's when you see it. You see the black community like just rising from poverty to to middle class, and it looks like they're on track to go higher than that. Yep. Welfare state comes in, boom, levels out, and then literally just starts taking a dive down.
Destroys the family, splits up.
Completely destroys a nuclear family. Yep. I mean, obviously everything that we know, from facts, stems from that, right? So,
together a 5-part formula for the zone's success, and he finds that a central piece is aggressive human capital management. Economists speak for the practice of firing tons of teachers.
You ask the teachers, what do you think you need to educate these kids? And we got answers like, well, all we need is smarter kids. I said, all you need is a new job.
The zone's formula is simply operationalized common sense. Revolutionizing schools won't require a revolution.
They needed extra time. If you're behind, you either got to spend more time or ask the white kids to please take Thursday and Friday off. Small tutoring groups, they used data to drive instruction. They had high expectations and they took no excuses for failure.
The highlight of Roland's youth were summers spent with his
He's actually even out like the Asian community,
Florida
too.
grade school teacher.
Yeah, it's very, or the Indian community.
What he notices about this formula.
I talk to my grandmother about every other day. She lives in Daytona Beach, Florida, very close to here. And I told her the 5 things. And we're family now. I'll just tell you what she told me. She said, baby, they pay you for that shit.
I'll go pause it. But
that's so funny. But it's totally
common sense,
it.
right? It's complete common sense. This is where people are talking about. It's like, the Department of Education is completely wrecking education. That and teachers unions.
I mean, I would argue, is it even relevant?
No. If the Department of Education went away today, I've gotten debates with somebody on this right now, and I say, if the Department of Education went away today, nothing would change, right?
Nothing.
Now, there would be, I would argue there would be some improvements. However, you wouldn't miss a beat, right? Nothing, you wouldn't miss it. It'd be like Pete Buttigieg not showing up to work. No one's going to know. Okay. The other one is the teachers unions, right? Teachers unions, for the most part, are completely just destroying, because it's not about the students. It's about them.
It's about the teachers.
Yeah. I mean, we see about out in California, they're trying to drag out the thing that happened for lockdown for a long time. And
returning to a certain place of business.
But they wanted students to keep staying at home. They didn't want to have to return to class. Then they filed a lawsuit because they had to go back to class, and then they filed a lawsuit so they could stay back out of class. And it's like, it was never about the students, it was about them. And then when you look at like the failure rate in these schools, right? Especially like inner city schools, the high failure rates, right? And to be honest, there are white schools out there, predominantly white schools, that they have the same issues, okay? But it's coming down to, it's like, if you're a terrible teacher, right, and you're just pushing these kids through, right, why are you here? Why are you getting paid, right? You should be getting paid based off of production, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of these teachers, I don't know if you people know, but a lot of these teachers are making like 6 figures due to being in the unions and then achieving tenure. There's nothing you can do to these teachers at that point.
Yeah.
Right? And again, they could just rubber stamp these kids. They can have all Fs, and then their class just rubber stamp an A, and nothing would happen to these teachers.
Yeah, Glenn Beck has a book he wrote several years ago called "Arguing with Idiots," and he actually goes into into depth about how you have to fire, the process of having fire somebody who's tenured. It's almost impossible.
Oh yeah,
it's almost impossible. They have teachers in schools who molested kids who are still there. They just put them in some office somewhere, and they have, books or whatever, and they just study, and they just write papers and do whatever. And it's like, you can't fire them. Yeah. And the other one was that they looked at schools because people talk about this. Well, we're just not pushing enough money into these schools. So they looked at, this is the same thing, Arguing with Idiots. They looked at the Idaho, and they compared it with New York, right? New York or California, one of them gets the most money out of all the schools in the country, right?
Sure.
Per person, they get the most. So we'll just say New York. Okay, we'll go with their argument of New York because I think that's what they use. And then, so let's just say per student per year, let's just say it's like $20,000. Okay, I know I'm probably off on that, but let's say it's $20,000. In Idaho, you would imagine it's far less. It's probably like $5,000, right? Much less because it's Idaho, right? They're getting the same exact results. So how are you putting more money into the state of New York and getting the same exact results? And it's not the cost of living. It is the cost of student per year, right? It's the cost of education.
It's because that money isn't going towards, helping these students or improving the schools or any of that stuff. It's going towards paying
union dues.
Yeah. paying the right person, right? You got to grease the wheels. I'm a big proponent of pretty much, gutting and redoing the entire educational system. Yeah. I mean, at this point, like I said, I've said on the podcast before, at this point, if you have your kids in public school, I don't know what the frick you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have, unless you're like in person there, or very, very involved. And I mean, in this day and age, most parents can be because they got to work, right? Yep. You got a 2-parent household, you got to work, you got life. You just can't be there. You got to trust these people with your kids. But if you're not there involved and they're teaching your kids all this stuff, or even not even teaching them, right? They're not even teaching these kids the subject that they're supposed to be in. Then why the hell would these kids be in there, man?
Well, okay, so we see what's going on with the economy and how crappy it is, right? Do you remember a couple years ago, and this stuff's probably still going on. They had the Common Core. Remember that? Obama was pushing Common Core, and it was like this new way of doing education, and one of them was math. And you remember the different math? So you had long division. And they had this new Common Core way of doing long division, right? And they would put up the 2 videos of
like the standard way, quote, quote.
Yeah, you have the standard way and you have the Common Core way. And the Common Core way, they would put them against each other, and the Common Core way would take twice to 3 times as long to do it. And they had the same professor doing it, and he would show you. And he would just sit there. He would do the first one, and he would sit there while he filmed himself doing the second one. And he's sitting there, and he put on some like outfit, or he did something, and then he started running around. He started exercising. He was doing all this other stuff, to show how stupid this was. Well, the reason why we're seeing what's happening in the economy is because what they were teaching in the Common Core is what they're actually putting into practice now. It doesn't work.
I do not remember this whatsoever. Maybe it was just so stupid. I was just like, I can't even look at this.
It was bad. Like they were going after schools left and right. Like one of the big headways into this was Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck was just pushing this big time. Same thing with Acorn back in the day. He pushed big time. You know,
shout out to
PV.
shout out to PV and JK for taking care of that Acorn situation.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to, I think, for education and these teachers is what incentive do they have to actually teach these kids instead of just letting them, like, you know, take some standardized tests and, like, if they fail, they fail. What incentive do they have? I mean, when you're talking about private institutions, private educational institutions, yeah, they have incentive, right? Because they're privately owned. They can be fired at any time if they're not meeting these performance standards. Yep. And actually doing their job because they have a lot more oversight scrutiny from parents, you know, who will actually sit on the board of these institutions and things like that. Public school teachers, I'm not saying that all of them are horrible. I'm just saying that the majority of them have no accountability. They have no reason, no incentive to actually teach these kids to the level that you know, parents are trusting them to teach them.
And I think it was a couple of years ago too, and I could be way off because time seems to be just either elongating or whatever you look at it. Anyway, in Atlanta, I believe correctly that you had this massive scandal that was caught in the public schools out there where they had fired like 15 or 20 teachers because they were forging.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Test grades and stuff like that.
In Georgia, right?
Yeah, to push students through.
Yeah.
But that was part of it too, because I think their school, they went to the performance-based teaching, and they're just like, well, if these kids are failing, I'm gonna lose my job and this and that. And it's like, but then what that comes down to in this case, to defend the teachers. If you're doing your job and you're doing what you're supposed to do, this comes down to the parenting, right? Because if you're not taking an active role in your kid's education as a parent, you're failing your kid, okay? Your kid is not failing. What you're seeing your child get in school is a result of your inaction. And I know that for a fact because growing up, my dad was heavily involved in my school. Man, if I came home with a C, good grief, man. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm not saying I didn't because I was a horrible student. But yeah.
I was taught algebra in 4th grade.
Yeah.
Couldn't go out and play. I had to do algebra. And I remember I took this test in 4th grade. It was a long division test. I could do it in my head. And I failed the test because the teacher's like, you didn't show your work. So my dad had to.
So what am I doing? Like, where do I have a cheat sheet? Like, get out of here.
Yeah, what kid can do long division in their head in 4th grade, right? So anyway, my dad comes in to talk to the teacher and stuff like that, and he's like, you failed him because he didn't write down the answer or write down the work. She's like, yeah, and he's all like, he goes, Brian, he goes, put this equation on the board. He goes, y equals x, blah blah blah, and then he's like, graph it out. So I boom, I graph it out, I go through the whole process. I do this whole wavelength graph or whatever, and she's just like sitting there like, my dad's like, yeah, give him an A. He's like. It's like,
dude, my dad was the same way, man. I wish I had been a better student, dude. I think in my mind, I have the same very kind of mentality as I don't know if you're Tim Pool's like accounting on his schooling. It's just like there was nothing that the teachers would do to actually engage you, to actually teach you. They were like, it was just going through the curriculum, right? And dude, my mind just doesn't work that way. I was just so bored with it. When I tried, dude, I could get, and I didn't have to try that much. I'm not saying I'm like the most intelligent person, but I could get A's if I wanted to.
Right.
But it was just so boring, dude. My mind would just float away. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what are we doing?
Well, good teaching too, right? So we'll go back to teaching. I can remember vividly great teachers. You know, they took their time to be able to present the information in a manner that was able to reach out to everybody.
Yeah.
You know. And like one of my professors in college, he went to college with Ben Bernanke, and so he was my economics professor.
Yeah, you told us about
that.
That
and he just laid it out so clearly, man. It was super easy to understand, you know. And he would sit there and have fun with it, you know. And I had classes like that in elementary and junior high and high school too.
Yeah, man. It's just as a parent, as now being a parent, dude. It scares the crap out of me, man, because I mean we have a really good friend who's a special ed teacher here where we live, and she's one of those good teachers, right? She like cares about her kids, like always wants the best for them. She's always keeping an eye on them, things like that, especially because they're special ed, you know, they need a little more attention. But she comes back with these horror stories, man, of like her assistants and like other teachers in the school, like in other classes and stuff, and it's just, you know.
Or teachers dumping work on her because they just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, not even that, dude. Like, there's like this lady that just like was like gifting lingerie to other teachers or something like that. You know what I mean? Like just leaving it, things like that, man. It's just like, or like make like an assistant that was dedicated to one special needs kid, and suddenly like the kid shows up with a chipped tooth, And they're like, what the freak happened? They're like, I don't know. He must have fallen or something. But she's literally there to avoid that because he can't catch himself, right? And it's just, I just can't believe you trust your children to these individuals for 7 hours out of the day, or 7-8 hours, whatever it is. It scares the crap out of me.
Well, we're going to get back to the video real quick, but I just want to say this too, that there's a test out there you can find it online. It was I think a 7th or 8th grade test that they gave to students in the 1830s. I failed it miserably.
Oh, really?
And a college educated man as myself, which isn't saying a whole lot, I am not the smartest man on earth. However, I'm pretty confident in history and math and whatnot. Holy crap. I mean, this was college level stuff in 7th grade in the 1830s.
Well, I mean, if you take a look back at the old, if you really want to see the degradation of the educational system, all you have to do is look at the PE classes that they used to have versus what they have now. Mm-hmm. Like just do like a video of what they used to have, a black and white, and then now, right back, man, dude, there was like these like middle schoolers who were like more ripped than anybody else, nowadays. And they were doing like 20 pull-ups, running sprints, squats, like they were doing like barbells, everything. And now you have kids just like walking in a circle on the track looking at their phone, man. Yep. So, all right, well, let's jump back into it. Let's finish this up. Let's see what we got.
I know it's obvious. But if it's so obvious, why we're not doing it?
Roland wins a MacArthur Genius Prize. He's a Time 100 honoree.
Roland Fryer! Mr. Fryer, thank you so much.
He's celebrated on national news.
These are kids that a lot of people had given up on. This success showed that it's never too late.
Roland, the unwanted son, becomes the first African American to ever win the Clark Medal, the prize for the top young economist in the world. And Roland arrives at this mythic place. Harvard makes him a professor right here in the economics department.
He was not a domesticated Negro. Okay? He walked around with his head held high, and he didn't tolerate fools gladly.
One day in 2012, Roland found such a fool at a forum hosted by Harvard. And the day's fool was David Simon, the creator of The Wire. Simon traffics in a condescending nihilism, a skepticism that Roland's school reform work could ever make a difference.
You could have the best school system in the world. They're not going to believe that it matters. You can't knock down that terrorizing fear that you just don't matter, of your self-worth. It's horrifying.
How would we know? We've never tried.
He didn't make the white people feel comfortable in their soft racism, their soft liberal racism.
How would we know?
He didn't dance for them.
The soft bigotry of low
I've been
expectations.
in 5th grade classrooms in which they're still learning the clock and how to tell time in 5th grade. I told the principal if they can't tell time at this point, they'll have no place to be on time for.
Damn. Roland does quantitative social science. He doesn't dance.
What I do know is that if you look at kids in 2005 who lost the lottery of going to the Harlem Children's Zone, the ones who lost the lottery are 6 times more likely to be pregnant in their teens. 10 of them are dead or in prison. But if you're in that school, you're not.
And when he
So here we have a bleeding heart, liberal, middle-aged white man trying to tell Roland Fryer, right?
No matter what you do, black kids will never succeed.
Yeah. And where did Roland Fryer come from? Some of the worst stuff ever.
Loaded 45 in us, selling clothes from his bedroom.
But this is the modern day left anyway, right? Telling blacks, it's like, you can't do this on your own. You need us. It's like they again, it's that soft bigotry of low expectations, right? Yep. It's the race to the bottom.
Yep.
And we have to keep you down here because we have to have that.
You can't do it by yourself.
Yeah. Well, we have to have that class that has to always be dependent upon us, or else we're done. The Democratic Party, if you didn't have racism, are done.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, you're seeing that right now in the demographics: Hispanic, Latino, blacks, Asians, Indian, pretty much any ethnic ethnicity that they were like, oh, we are the party of ethnicity. It's like they're leaving them in droves for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, this is the part that started the Ku Klux Klan. So,
friendly reminder.
Just saying.
Found some nonsense. He called it nonsense.
Let's get past the bullshit because we can actually get this stuff done. It's not what to do. The question is, do we have the courage to do it?
Yep.
Roland's work represents a mortal
Kinda
threat
talks a little bit like
to some
Obama.
of the most powerful black people at Harvard.
Educated.
Consider Claudine Gay, the daughter of an engineer who went from Exeter directly to Stanford, then to Harvard. She's a silky smooth corporate operator. Her signature accomplishment is a Harvard-wide inequality initiative.
The world is awake to inequality and systemic racism, and anti-Black racism in particular, really like never before.
It's a standard array of task forces, symposiums, buzzwords promising equity and inclusion.
A way of bringing this all together into an agenda that feels complementary and synergistic.
Or take Larry Bobo, a man who regularly attacks Roland's work in his classroom. Bobo is the product of privilege, born to a physician in a cozy suburb of Nashville. A longtime professor of African American studies, Bobo has reached the coveted apex of his profession by doing this.
Racism. I see racism, the terrible wound of slavery and attendant racism.
This is the soft porn of black pain, an empty, endless recitation.
What a
of
great
victim
line. Oh my gosh.
that gives ample moral pleasure to the audience, but actually accomplishes nothing.
And if you did
for the
this
kids
to
Roland
any
cares
race, any minority, you would get the same exact result.
Yep.
If you did this to Asians, you would get the same result. If you did this to whites, you would get the same result.
Social experiment, man. That's what it is. I mean, dude, that was a great line. Soft porn of the what? Of soft porn of black pain. That's what racism is nowadays, man. I mean, racism does not mean what it used to mean whatsoever, and people don't use it in the context that it did used to mean either. Now they just mean like you're being mean. You know what I mean? You hurt my feelings. That's what racism means nowadays.
Yeah, you didn't say anything. Well, that means you're a racist. What? So
where's that John Travolta meme where he's just like looking around? Like
there's a great clip out there. If you ever go find it, it's on YouTube. Sometimes they take it down, sometimes they leave it up. And it was from the show called Rescue Me. I don't know if I ever showed it to you.
It's that firefighter show.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And I can't remember the main actor again. Hilarious. He's a comedian, right? And he's a liberal too. He's big on the left, but anyway, hilarious guy, Dennis Leary. And so anyway, they're in this meeting, whatever, because there was an account of sexism or whatever in the firehouse, and so anyway, they have to go through this whole training on
sexual harassment,
whatever. Yeah. So, and at the end, he's all like, so, is anybody here racist? Is anybody here biased? And then the only person that raises his hand is like Dennis Leary, and he's like looking around, and nobody else is raising their hand, and he goes through this whole list of things of being biased, which isn't racist, it's biased. And then of course, all the other people in there start, yeah, and like the one Puerto Rican guy in there is like, yeah, he starts getting in on it too, and so they're just going through this whole thing, and then at the end, he goes, so you see why, they show him this video, and of course the video is this white guy that's getting, he's the racist, and all these different minorities that are trying to correct him, and then finally they correct him at the end, and he's like, I'm so sorry for this and that, and then Dennis Leary is like, this is bullcrap. He's like, so basically what you're saying is that white people are the ones that can be racist, and so basically, to sum it all up, he's like, look, if I don't save somebody in a fire because of the color of their skin, he's like, then you could bring me to this class and put me in for this whole racist training, whatever. He's all like, but until then, he's all like,
go screw yourself. Yeah. Just a waste of time, man.
Yeah, you can kiss my white Irish, what.
Moral pleasure to the audience, but actually accomplishes nothing for the kids Roland cares about.
He's not into the minstrel show. He's more likely to tell you something like, you don't know a damn thing about what black people's problems are. And he's more likely to say that not only to you if you're white, but if you're one of these bow tie wearing domesticated Negroes who's never seen the inside of a housing project, he might tell you a little bit of something about that. He might tell you you don't know what a crack house is. You ain't never been anywhere near where there's gunfire crying out at 2 o'clock in the morning and you don't know where it came from. That's what he's likely to say. They don't like those kind of people at Harvard, I've noticed.
They used to.
They used to, yeah.
And then Roland asked the question at the molten hot center of American politics. Are racist police murdering black people?
Ooh. It's about to get spicy.
He had a team of his research Confederates go down there and read through the handwritten police incident reports. You know the race of the subject. You know whether gunshots had been fired. He was particularly interested in the use of lethal force. When would the police kill a suspect?
Oh boy. I remember Roland walking in and saying, "What do the numbers look like?" And I said, "I just don't want to say it out loud." And he said, "What do you mean you don't want to say it out loud?"
I gave this paper early on. 3 professors took me to the side. Said, "Hey, it's just so different, Roland. It's so different. You don't want to publish this thing together. You put that away for them." I said, "Well, you just guaranteed I'm going to put it in no matter what."
He couldn't find bias in lethal use of force.
Couldn't
In fact,
find
he
bias.
found that it was less likely that force would be used against a suspect when the suspect was black.
The resulting media firestorm prompts credible death threats, and Roland is temporarily assigned around-the-clock police protection.
Wow.
Well, why are they doing this? This is one of the weapons they use to pit whites versus blacks again, right?
It's the what is it? The uncomfortable truth, uncomfortable facts.
Yeah,
right?
but you have to create the tribalism. You have to split them up, and you have to pit them against themselves. So they focus on these things that are inconsequential, that don't matter, that aren't actually happening. So that way they can do all this crappy stuff on the back end, right?
Focus on your enemies, not on you.
The truth helps us, right? False narratives do not. I find it frustrating. I find it insulting that people would change the truth because they think they're trying to help us. They're just trying to help themselves.
Voila.
The truth is enough.
That's French for
I'm just following the data wherever it leads. What are you doing? They're just trying to help themselves. The truth is enough. I'm just following the data wherever it leads. What are you doing?
I like him. How is he still at Harvard?
It's complicated.
They're doing exactly
Josh,
what we're doing.
it's complicated.
Oh boy. I want to do what I can to support what you're doing, even if I don't always know what the right thing to do is.
What?
You know, when I first
One of his researchers.
I
Morphe's
think
gonna come out?
I and most people definitely thought it would blow
Exactly
over.
like the room.
So some dark machinery gets kicked into action when one of Roland's former staffers accuses him of sexual harassment.
She was Roland
Did
Fryer's
that to Clarence
personal
Thomas.
assistant.
Again,
keeping
man.
his schedule and things like
Brett Kavanaugh.
It's like you just know that like as soon as somebody prominent that's controversial comes out with controversial ideas that goes against the narrative, what's the first thing they go after? First, credibility through sexual harassment.
Right.
Always, man. That is like the surefire way they're always going to attack you. You see it all over and over again. Brett Kavanaugh. You see it with Clarence Thomas.
You had what's his name that had it too? Whatever. Either way, but who's it always against though? It's always against people who I'm not necessarily saying they're conservative or Republican, but they are free thinkers.
Yeah.
You know,
People that espouse facts instead of feelings.
They buck the narrative. They buck the message.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have to slow them down. You have to throw a wrench into the gears.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do that? Well, that's how we got the Me Too movement and stuff, right? Yeah. You have to believe all women.
Yep.
In
lieu of facts.
And what are you seeing? What are you seeing now? They actually have like a college. Oh no, I'm getting off there. They actually had a male college student that was in.
He did it. Yeah.
He did it against her because he's like, well, she's gonna file Talon against me, so I'm gonna do it first.
Yep.
It's like,
I mean, if women want to play in that that certain way, man, don't be angry when it comes back to bite you in the ass.
But wait till they're gonna get into the details of this, and it's pretty interesting.
Gosh.
Like that.
I got my hands on hundreds of pages of communication between Roland and this woman. The overwhelming impression you get is not sexual tyranny. It's like just straight up camaraderie. It is. Roland is talking to this woman about how much he wants to be a great dad and how he absolutely hates all the attention. Like occasionally mildly sexual. I mean, he jokes that if he were single, he'd need a better bed. And it's reciprocal. She tells him about the 3 unsolicited phone numbers she got on a recent work trip. I mean, she'd sent him pictures of herself at a work party and reported that she was getting a little intoxicated.
Come on, who paid her? Let's be real here.
2014, 2015. The relationship was getting sour. He had more and more complaints. His complaints were not always gracious, something like, my 3-year-old could do this better than you did. Stuff like that.
Eventually, Roland's office fires her, and they offer a severance package, and Harvard makes them cut it by $25,000. And Roland's lawyers have said that if they'd just given her that extra $25,000, what's about to happen would have never happened.
It was one of my closest friends. She'd left on a very sour note. She wanted just plain old revenge.
Closest friend, diming her out.
Man. Just like Brett Kavanaugh's accuser.
38 specific claims of sexual harassment. Instantly, investigators shave off 6 of those. And then after the investigation, they shave off another 26.
Wow.
All but 6 of them were rejected. Many of those on the ground that they were not only false, but they were deliberately false fabrications.
Lies.
In other words, they were lies.
What? Women lie?
One of my closest friends deciding to spin complete lies.
And that was her
Was there
saying
anything
that. That's not us
true
saying
from
that.
the accusations she lodged?
Yeah. I'm saying,
like what?
There were. You have to understand the nature of this laboratory that Roland was running. So this is the Ed Lab. It's right next to Harvard's campus.
You got to put it into context.
The walls are covered with his prized clientele. Like, this spot was exceptionally informal. He would wear custom-made sports jerseys. He'd play NBA jams and talk about research ideas. The informality has an intellectual purpose to ensure that he and everybody he works with are constantly willing to hit and test these boundaries that are imposed upon you at Harvard. What's happening? As part of that effort to cultivate a culture of norm breaking, he'd regularly play the most controversial black stand-up comedians. I mean, these are the master craftsmen of provocation.
White guys are so afraid to be a racist. I'm telling you.
So the 6 things he's convicted
BET
of
Comic View. There was
are
nothing.
Investigators finding
It was
this
just funny.
culture to have gone too far. So he once joked about how a senior administrator hadn't had sex since black people were slaves. And he'd once said he learned his negotiating skills trying to get laid in high school.
That's just
Think
guy
of the
stuff.
fondest memory of your friend. Both of you are laughing with a few other people, and she's throwing her head back, and she's laughing, and and they're like, "You got that memory? Great, great. Now let us label it as sexual harassment." And I was like, "What?"
Wow.
The Harvard bureaucracy was looking around for somebody else to make a complaint. Complainant two, her
they
story,
totally got to her, man.
it began and
Such a
ended in
inside job.
2008.
She's another ex-personal assistant and she presents BlackBerry messages in which he is clearly flirtatious, like half joking that he's gonna move to southern France and asking if she wants to come. Or texting her from a fundraiser that if she were with him,
like any single man.
Yeah.
So he was very flirtatious with her, probably more than he should have been. He was a subordinate,
I'll give him that.
That was
yeah,
a bad decision.
You're professional. These people work for you. Probably should
One
be
thing
getting
Harvard
that flirtatious.
But wasn't she an assistant somewhere else? In Harvard, but she wasn't working under him.
Yeah, yes.
If they weren't in the same department, it's like, well, I mean,
yeah.
Her paycheck isn't dependent on you.
Yeah.
You're not in charge of anything that she does or anything work related with her.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean I think that I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if he was in charge of her department or if she she had to report to him in whatever way, yeah, I could see conflict of interest there. Yeah. But you know what I mean?
I would say at best the one that was working for him. Like at best, it's like, yeah, she works for you, so there's probably some lines there you should.
Yeah, you shouldn't talk about some stuff. Yeah,
I mean, I always remember somebody like one of my best professors in college, Dr. Kimbrough, always said, he's like, anytime I have somebody in my office, he's like, I keep the door open, man or woman, doesn't matter. He's all like, I don't want there to be any questions about anything. Yep.
Was that Roland Fryer never sexually propositioned or made sexual advances on a single woman in his office, not once.
So that's it?
This is a former New York Times reporter.
That is it. Harvard's own investigators determined that Roland's punishment should be some training, some workplace sensitivity training.
Okay. I feel like you're about to tell me something a little bit more. He didn't just get training.
They passed their recommendation to a small committee of high-ranking administrators. I was only able to figure out the identity of 2 members of that committee.
Can you guess who they are?
One of them is Claudine Gay,
and
the other one
chick.
is Larry Bobo.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Like champagne,
2 liberal black folks.
Wow.
Liberals.
Right. People whose careers and reputations were directly threatened by Roland's work. Those are the people that get to determine Roland's punishment.
What happens next?
Larry Bobo came in and he read out the punishment. It started with, the lab is going to be permanently closed. And I was like, what? And then it goes on to, all of the projects that you've been working on have been halted. And then it goes on to, Roland's been suspended for 2 years. And I was like, this is the most cold-blooded murder I've ever seen.
2-year suspension on fake accusations.
Why not just fire the guy?
They're not allowed to.
Right, tenure.
One of those quirky features of the academic job market, which means that he is guaranteed a job for life. So I found out Claudine Gay asked the president of the school to revoke Roland's tenure. President declines because that's not happened even once in the last 100 years. But this punishment is career death.
Black on black crime, man.
You're just trying to say he's canceled.
Wow.
Yeah, this is industrial strength cancellation.
Wow.
Do you worry about that also, though? Like even appearing in this?
I think that there's a real risk, but I think what I've been thinking about a lot lately also is there's a risk to saying nothing at all and to look back on something and to realize that you should have said something, but you didn't just because you didn't have the words at the time. And maybe you have the words now, but the words aren't useful now. Like, how could you be doing such important work, dedicating so much time and energy to helping people, and have this be the end result? I think that was really disheartening.
So, I mean, what happened to Roland Fryer? We know that it was not manslaughter, like it was murder. Like it was intentional. And it was perpetrated by people who did not take kindly to his rigorous slaughter of their precious ideological codes. People who got gifted some superior weaponry and used it to snuff him out.
They didn't like those receipts.
It's ridiculous that I'm the person that has to say this, but they're willing to enforce these ideological codes, even if it means sacrificing the future of those boys and those girls, right?
Yeah, I got mine. Screw the rest of you.
Man, dude, it's just, that's brutal, dude.
When I first got to Harvard, people would say to me, "Hey man, how does it feel to beat the odds?" And that would really piss me off, because it's not about beating the odds. It's about changing the odds. So I guess I'm just trying to make the journey worth it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was brutal what they did to that guy. You know, he just did his due diligence. He went and found the facts. They're like, well, hey, we don't like what you're finding. You need to keep this a little bit quiet, right? And he's all like, where did he come from? You know, he came up from rough neighborhoods. It's like, you're not going to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to sit there and threaten me. And in fact, the fact that you're threatening me tells me something. It tells me I'm getting to you, right? It tells me that
It tells me I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now I'm going to go even harder, right? Now I'm you know, Michael Scott. You know, I'm going to go even harder now.
Yeah, I mean, they did him dirty, man. I mean, I'm definitely going to be looking more into him, and definitely all these other people too, man. It just goes to show you how far cancel culture has come, man. That you like these crazy, huge institutions they don't give a crap, man. If you step out of line, man, they're gonna come at you full bore. It doesn't matter what.
The left loves diversity. They just don't like diversity of thought.
Yeah,
you can't think differently. If you think differently, you're ostracized. You're out. You notice all these people now who are on the right, the far right now. There's no more right. It's just far right.
Yeah, the scale is just moving
over to the window.
It's just exactly. It's just shifting, man. Everybody's staying exactly where they were. New people are coming in, obviously, that are more far right or more far left, but that window just shifts, man. Mm-hmm. And people that were liberal yesterday are radical right today.
Exactly.
Man.
So it's like you need to take this to heart, because eventually it's going to come for you. Yeah. Eventually you're going to find yourself in the crosshairs, because you're going to sit there and go, no, I don't agree with this.
Yeah, you're gonna find your limit, right? You could be, let's say, you're pro-abortion, you're pro welfare, all that kind of stuff, right? But then, like, let's say, they're like, well, let's go start a war. Like, I'm anti-war. It's like, well, now you're on the far right then. Yeah. It's like, what are you talking about? I've been with you guys the whole time. I just don't agree on this thing. But no, if you don't agree with it 100%, you're not on the team, man.
Yep.
You could be on the fringe, but you're not on the team. I mean, that's something that's coming from someone who's grew up Democrat his whole life, on the left.
Yep.
You too, right? Yep. So,
and like I said, I am a true multiculturalist. I've lived all over the world. I've been, living with multiple different cultures. Like I said, my adopted mom's black. It's like I've seen and lived this stuff, man. And it's like,
you have a podcast with a Mexican. Like,
that's crazy, dude. You're Mexican?
Yeah. What? Tom Cruise mask.
Yeah, but again, it's like we just had a point where, much like me and you, right? It's like you had to realize I have to accept the facts, and by accepting these facts, therefore I have to now, live a certain way, or I have to think a certain way. So it's like once I was faced with those facts, it was like, man, it
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, I just can't do it anymore. Right. Like, I can't ignore it. That's the thing. Like, you start trying to ignore all these little things, and then just keep piling up to the point where you're just like, I just can't ignore it anymore. These people are crazy.
Yeah. And I just want to say for anybody who's listening out here, I know that a lot of stuff can be hard. Like, you could be at a workplace with people you don't agree with. You can be, a church, whatever it may be. And there's a lot of stuff going on, and maybe you're biting your tongue, but just know that there are plenty of people. You are not in the minority. You're in the majority.
Oh yeah.
Don't be afraid to speak up peaceably, right? Don't be afraid to be tactful in your speaking, but always back it up with facts. And you're going to be right when you use facts and then they start attacking you personally.
Yeah, when they start attacking you with, well, I feel, that's when you know you're winning.
Yep.
And I think we are winning the culture war right now. I
Yep.
think the paradigm has shifted. I think average people have started to realize and really be red-pilled, especially with the economy and everything going on, as to, you know, the truths of the matter of what's going on in the world and the situation that we're going to be facing in the next couple of years, because it's going to be spicy. So.
Yep. Well, if you guys like the show, if you like what you see today, you know, make sure that you hit that like button. Especially share the show with friends. Send it out to somebody. That helps us a lot. Make sure you're leaving comments. And I think that's all we have for you today. So, Mike, you got anything?
No, that's it for me. If you guys got any other ideas for any other reaction videos you guys want us to do on, feel free to send that over as well. But yeah, share, like, subscribe, and we'll keep working on the good content for you guys.
Oh yeah, and just at the end, we forgot to do this. You know, the Mad Fresh is not here, so we have to bust his balls a little bit. So he's out in Vegas at the Bunny Ranch.
The male one, not the woman.
Yeah, but anyway, he'll be back with us in about a month or so. He's got this work thing he's got to do, which is just bullcrap.
Who works anymore?
He's hooking.
He's on call out there. All right, guys. Stay saintly.